buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live.
Yeah, across the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and/or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning and welcome to the program. Thank you for coming in and joining us today. It is hour one of the big Thursday show today. Thursday. And we appreciate you coming in and being part of it. It's going to be quite a show today. We got a lot laid out. Coming up in hour one, Frank Tomaszewski is going to be joining us, the brand spanking new legislator from the interior. We're going to talk with him about what's going on down in Juneau, get his take as a freshman, how things are going, what he's seeing, and get his positions on both the push to increase the base student allocation, as well as the discussion of defined benefits and more, all the hot stuff that's going on. He's going to be joining us here in just a few moments, and we'll be talking with him about that. And then in hour two of the big radio show, we'll be talking with Cathy Tilton. Cathy is, of course, she is the House Majority Speaker of the House, and she's going to come on board and give us an idea of what the direction the majority is going to be taking here in the future, especially when it comes to long-term fiscal policy. What is the plan? What is the plan? I want to know, what is the plan for long-term fiscal policy? And so we're going to be talking with her here in just a few minutes, and we'll see what she has to say as we go forward in hour two. She'll be joining us at 7:05 this morning for a discussion from there. Want to remind you, of course, that if you would like to support the show, one of the big ways to do it is to become a member of the Common Sense Corps. That is the Cool Kids Club. All you got to do is go over to MichaelDukesShow.com and click on the Join the Corps logo there. It'll take you over to Patreon, where you can join for as little as a single cup of coffee a month. I mean, not even super fancy coffee. I mean, I'm like $3 coffee, that's just regular coffee these days, isn't it? I mean, you can't even get a super fancy coffee drink for $3. And of course, it helps you. It helps support the show in a variety of ways. The big update that we did over Christmas with the rebuild of the studio and all the fancy lighting and the new computer stuff and all that stuff is funded by listeners. We're like NPR, funded by listeners like you. That's what it all does. So that's the good stuff. So if you'd like to help support the show, you'd like to become a member of the private Facebook group, you want to have access to other swag and all kinds of things, then go on over and join the Corps. That's what I'm saying. The Common Sense Corps. Join the Corps. So anyway, that's my pitch for today. What other housekeeping do I have? If you'd like, you can come out and join us on YouTube as well. I'm trying to get the YouTube subscriptions up. I don't know if this has anything to you radio listeners, but if you are ever on YouTube and feel like you'd like to support the show, You can also go over to YouTube and just type in my name, Michael Dukes, or Michael Dukes Show, and subscribe, and then ring the bell to get notifications on YouTube. I've got thousands of listeners and supporters and followers on Facebook. I'm trying to get to 1,000 on YouTube as well. And I'm looking for a little help. I'm just 400, so I'm looking for a little bit of help on YouTube, which I don't know. It seems to be that there's an uncommon bias for people. They just don't like that. It's interesting. Anyway, we're going to that's the final piece of housekeeping. I knew there was one more. The final piece of housekeeping is that I have to turn this light on. I forgot. The final piece of housekeeping is that I will be on vacation this coming Monday for President's Day. I mean, I know it's a weird holiday but I had the opportunity not to do a bunch of other stuff that day. So I thought, you know what? It's President's Day. There's going to be a lot of stuff closed, and I could just sleep in. And I don't do that too often, so why not? So we're going to, on Monday, it's going to be alternate programming in both parts of the state, both north and south, and we will be returning to the airwaves on Tuesday. So we will be off and be back. And anyway, that's the big housekeeping news for today. So feel free to do it. Well, we made the news, and not necessarily in a good way. There was you heard about what was happening where the parent was reading all about the book that is in the libraries in the Anchorage School District. And it was the book was all about, I don't know, sexting, relationships, consuming, how you could, there's nothing wrong with enjoying porn and all this kind of stuff. And they were reading it, right? They're reading from the book that is in the library that the students and the children are going to. This is a school library. And the school board member or the school board president said, you got to stop reading that. I'm going to interrupt you. You can't read that in front. Why not? Well, because it's just too disturbing for the public to talk about. It sounds like you have concern about the book, but I mean, I'm just, wait a minute. I'm going to read from this book because this is what our children are reading. And if it's making you uncomfortable, there might be something to this, right? There might be something to this. So this story broke last week. And I don't know, I 3 or 4 people had already sent me the link that it made national news. Fox News got a hold of it, and they actually went out and they interviewed Jay McDonald, who was the parent that was sitting there talking about it. Fox News actually asked the school board members for about their votes. They actually reached out to the school board members, and they have declined. They have not received a response about this. And I'm just going to read. I can only read a little portion of what this says on the airwaves, so as not to violate FCC. I mean, the actual, you can't read about it. So this is a few things that just a few things that they're teaching your kids in the public schools right now. Now, this is not a book that's available at all school districts across the state, but it is available in Anchorage, the largest school district. And I wouldn't be surprised if something similar is not in the public libraries of your own children's school. He went on to talk about what diversity, inclusion, and equity looks like in this book. And so he brought the book out. It's called Let's Talk About It, The Teen's Guide to Sex, Relationships, and being a human. In one example, the book unpacks kinks, fantasies, and porn. It goes on to say, the book says, there's nothing wrong with enjoying some good porn. It's a fun, sugary treat. When consumed right, porn can help you discover new aspects of your sexuality. It's a great place to research fantasies and kinks safely on the internet. There's tons of people and communities out there who share your interest and have all kinds of advice. I'm going to stop right there because as a guy who early on in my years had struggled in the early days of the internet, struggled a little bit with the whole pornography thing, I would say, what? I mean, what? And then telling these kids that there's safety on the internet, that there's a ton of people who and communities out there who share your interest with teenagers. Oh, sure, just go join a chat room about some, whatever kind of just what? Mind blown. By the way, he also read a portion of the book which provided tips to kids on sending naked pictures to their peers in texting. And of course, the school board president was like, well, no, we thanks for, I know it sounds like you have some concerns about this book, but no, I'm going to read the damn thing to you because this is what you're giving to our kids. I'm sorry if you're uncomfortable, Mr. School Board President, but you should be. Absolutely insane. All right. I wanted to, I had another thing that I wanted to talk about this morning before this came across my electronic transom. I had 3 different emails and messages about this story this morning. People are obviously incensed about it, and to which I say, are you surprised? This is why I homeschooled all my kids, period. That right there. That's why I homeschooled all my kids. I wanted to get into this article from the Alaska Landmine about the base student allocation because it is a surprisingly insightful article. It is very, very well written and well done. I had actually reached out to, I didn't realize it was Jeff as in Jeff Landfield because it's from the Alaska Political Report. But I sent the email to Jeff and asked him if he wanted to come on and talk about the program. And he kind of laughed at me and said it was way too early in the morning. So I don't know. Jeff and I have had a rocky relationship over the years. But anyway, I want to go over this because there's some fascinating details in this. And maybe we'll get a chance later on in the show, or maybe we'll reserve it for next week because this is just some shocking stuff in this breakdown of the BSA. Things that people don't really understand. And it's laid out in black and white, in charts and in everything else. And it is shocking that it's just shocking what you don't how much it is not explained by the mainstream media. So we'll continue that discussion with that here shortly. But that's it. We got to go. He is here. We're coming up on the commercial break, so let's hit it, shall we? We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will continue in just a moment. And we will have Representative Frank Tomaszewski with us here on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Yeah, that was like, I need to take a shower now. I just feel like I might want to take a shower after reading excerpts from that book, which is for teenagers. Just throwing that out there. All right. Let me get things square here. I see that we have, I see Frank's in the green room. And so let's go over to him and see, we'll check his audio, make sure everything is good to go and all that. Let's jump over there right now. Good morning, Frank. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Michael. Another beautiful day.
Yeah, that's what they say. Do me a favor. If you're on your laptop, pull your lid towards you just a little bit so that there you go. See, look at that. Now we're all good. All right. You sound good. You look, you look way too fancy for me. I'm wearing a sweater and a t-shirt and you're all dolled up. I feel underdressed on my own show, but that's okay. So you ready to discuss all the good stuff that's happening down there in Juneau?
Well, I hope I can enlighten you on some stuff. That'll be good.
I got to tell you, there's a lot of stuff going on a lot of stuff going on here. And we definitely want to hear everything we definitely want to hear about everything that's going on and get your take on it here in the next segment or so. You have to bail out. Excuse me. You have to bail out by 10 till. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be convenient for me. 15,
Okay.
10 till, something like that.
All right. Well, we're going to try and stretch it as far as we can. I'd love to take you to the top of the hour, but I don't want to hold you up. So we'll chat about that here, and we'll take you as far as we can go here up into the next break, and we'll be back here in just a hot second. So I'll put you back in the green room for a minute because I don't want to double do. So if you need to go grab a glass of water or whatever, do what you need to do, get things going on. That is fantastic. All right, let me go over here. Wonder if there will be a book burning. Well, I mean, I'm all for that book. If somebody wants to buy that book for their kid directly, that's on them. But to put it in a public library amongst kids who may be exposed to that kind of stuff early, I mean, just again, the encouragement of them to go out and get involved in the kink community. There's tons of peoples in community out there who share your interests and have all kinds of advice. They're basically telling these kids, go solicit advice from groups and chat rooms on the internet about sexual kinks. That's just rife for, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not one for burning books, but I definitely want controlling, especially in the formative years, keeping an eye on what my kids are reading. I would not hand my kid a Hustler magazine either. I'm throwing that out there. I was surprised to hear that the Mat-Su-Borough School District talk all about what was the projected amount of the BSA money and the end and they're planning on what to do for. And the school district also gave Randy Tranny, the superintendent, a $20,000 bonus for keeping the schools open. How to post nudes in the internet and hide your identity. Yeah. Dave Donnelly said, let him read it. Yeah, exactly. Dave Donnelly stood up and said and argued with the school board president to let them read it. Melody's already checked the Mat-Su-Borough school districts, and that book is not there, but there were 56 books that were inappropriate and we're going to require permission from parents to check out. Jerica says porn can be as bad as crack. I agree with that. And we're wondering what's wrong with folks today. And remember, adults go to jail for sending and receiving naked pics of kids. I mean, that's the thing. They're encouraging these kids to go out there and engage with these people, adults who are, I don't even know what to say. Okay, we're going to jump back into it. Here we go. We've got Frank Tomaszewski here with us, and we're going to continue the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. All right, continuing ahead now, we've got our guest for this hour is Frank Tomaszewski. He is the brand spanking newly minted legislator from the Interior. He's got a chance to go down there to Juneau, experience some of what they have to offer, which that's got to be educational, just to say the least. And he joins us this morning to discuss all the news that's fit to print, and we welcome him onto the program right now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I'm doing good, and I guess some things are just not fit to print from what I'm listening to.
Wow. I mean, I got to tell you, you read the kind of stuff, and when the school board gets a little uncomfortable when you're reading some of the stuff from the book, maybe that's not something you should give to teens and young adults and sometimes even preteens to read on their own, right? I mean, if you're uncomfortable with it, maybe that's not such a good idea.
You know, I applaud those folks who take the time to dive into what they are pushing for on our kids and exposing it, because we need more folks like that getting involved and exposing that agenda. I don't know what else to call it. You know, the over sexualization of kids. You know, kids have enough distractions in their lives that they don't need to have that kind of garbage in schools.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, look, kids are already faced with the internet. I mean, my kids were probably exposed to more sexualization stuff outside of my control necessarily than I ever was as a youth. And, it's frightening sometimes, the things that can go on out there, no matter how hard a parent tries to keep track of everything. But to then expect to send them to school and have them be kept safe and walk into a library that's got Melody in the chat room just said that there's 56 books that are marked inappropriate for children at the Matsu Borough School District libraries that require parental permission to check out. Why? Why are you spending money on books that are going to require that? I mean, let mom and dad buy the book for the kid if it's something that they think it's important that they should know. But anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked on this, but it is shocking stuff to say the least.
You wonder why the grades are the performance is as bad as it is in schools in Alaska, with us being 49th in the state in reading and 49th and 50 in reading and math. That's, those they don't need those distractions.
Maybe we should have a book on reading or a book on mathematics instead of a book on sexting and how to join a kink club or whatever it is. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your experience down in the legislature here, just quickly, because I don't have a lot of time with you this morning. So what's it been? I mean, you dove into the deep end of the pool. You decided to jump into this. Give us a little bit. Give us a little bit of your hot take on what's it like down in Juneau. Is it everything you dreamed for and hoped for?
When everyone told me, make sure you bring your hip waders and your raincoats because it's going to, it's basically a wet area. But I haven't really had that experience. It seems like it's been pretty nice. We have had some snowstorms and it rains, but my first week here, it was sunshine almost every day. We flew in. I brought the family with me, at least the three kids that are still living with me and my wife. So there's 5 of us plus the dog. That was the difficult part. Everybody in Juneau loves a dog, but nobody in Juneau wants to rent to you if you have a dog. So that was a difficult proposition. And So, but it's interesting because the cul-de-sac that I finally found a little townhouse at, everybody has a dog. So, that's good. But no, it's been an interesting, I've lived in Alaska for 43 years, and this is actually my first trip to the capital. I've never
Oh,
been
yeah.
to Juneau before.
Well, it's
So,
hard, right? I mean, it's hard. It's expensive. I've only been there twice in my entire life. Once when I was a kid with my dad, and the second time when I was a newly elected assembly person. They sent me down there because AML had their orientation going on down there. I mean, it's not easy to get to, and it's not cheap to get to. That's why the average Alaskan has probably never been to Juneau for that reason alone.
yeah,
Frank, let's move on real quick here, because again, I don't have a lot of time, and I want to talk about the two big elephants in the room. The two things that everybody, and by everybody I mean the normal powers that be, the normal power brokers behind the scenes, the two things that they seem to want to talk about almost exclusively this session, and that is, of course, first, the base student allocation formula, the funding for education, which ties in nicely to what we were just talking about with the book thing. And the second thing is defined benefits. We're looking at a base student allocation, and the proposals right now would suck a tremendous amount of money out of Alaska's adjusted gross income, where they're talking about increasing the BSA by $1,000 or $1,250 and everything else. And that seems to be, that's all they want to talk about. But as you just pointed out, Alaska, scholastic, as far as scholastic achievement, I mean, we're in the bottom of the barrel. We've got, only 1 out of 4 kids don't even graduate, and 3 out of 4 kids that are graduating, I mean, they can't even do basic math, reading, writing, arithmetic. They got to take remedial math to go take basic college level math courses, et cetera. And yet they just say the answer is to throw more money at the problem. What's your take on the increase to the BSA, accountability, the scholastic scores, and more?
well, those are all good questions, and and you were just talking about how expensive it is to get to Juneau. Well, the average person isn't coming down here to lobby me. It's the school districts, the unions, the organized folks that have this discretionary money apparently to come down and organize and lobby all the legislators. As far as the BSA, when those folks come to me and come to my office, and I don't refuse anyone to come in and give their side of the story, right? I won't. I'll talk to anybody. I'm very open that way, and we can have a frank discussion. But my question to those folks who are asking for that extra money is, where's the accountability? How are you going to use this money, and how is it going to increase the test scores of our students? How are they going to excel in math and reading? And when I hear stories like, this is the garbage that they're putting in our libraries and distracting the kids with, it doesn't want to make me give them any more money. It makes me want them to actually hold themselves accountable and do what's right for our kids.
Right. And you mentioned again, what we have is we have government money chasing more government money. All these people from the school districts and the lobbyists, they are using governmentally funded money to pay for these lobbyists, to pay for these school board members or PTA members or whatever. It becomes a kind of a circular train of using government money to chase more government money. There's no accountability. Anytime you talk about, well, okay, we can discuss the BSA increase, but we have to attach some kind of accountability to it to show that the product that you're delivering is better than what it's been. And then they gasp and go, why do you hate the children? Or you're trying to cut us, or no, you have to deliver a good product. And then none of this addresses the fact that the BSA, because of the way the formula is baked in and put together, there's no guarantee that any of that money is actually going to hit into the classroom. The BSA, the first take of all the BSA goes straight to administrative, overhead, personnel, benefits, all this other kind of stuff, with no guarantee that any of this money is going to make it down into the classroom to actually increase the educational outcome. And that's the other thing. I mean, we should be opening up the BSA formula and looking at it and putting back in that amendment that says 70%, there should be a guarantee that 70% of this money actually ends up into the educational component of this. It actually ends up in the classroom.
Right. That money needs to follow the kids. And that's where we need it in the classrooms. We don't, you know, and honestly, I haven't been in a lot of those education meetings where they're really heavily talking about this issue of the BSA. Being in finance, I'm kind of stuck in three of my subcommittees that I'm chairing. But you know, the BSA, like you said, there's that formula, and that's not the only money that they get. We are at the top in the nation as far as dollars per capita per student that we
But wait,
spend on.
Frank, that's not what the paper said. The paper said this is all the money they're getting, and they've been underfunded for years, right? I mean, I'm being facetious, but you're right. That's the point I've been trying to make, that the BSA is just the beginning of the monies that they are receiving. But they act like this is all the money we're getting, and look at how we're shortchanging our children.
Yeah, and there has been no increases either, right? It's been flat funding. But here we sit at the almost the top of the nation. As you know, there's only a few states that are paying more per student. You know, states like New York and New Jersey, and here we are in Alaska, and you know, we've got some of the lowest scores in the nation as testing. And you know, it's kind of astounding that some come in and say, well, those tests are bad. And I'm like, really? How do you, what's a math test? I mean, math is kind of a universal language, right?
Right.
I mean, how do you mess up a math test, you know, other than not knowing how to do math?
Right.
So, you know, it's
reading comprehension, right? Reading comprehension and reading language. How do you, I mean, how big of a test is, if you can't read the test, that's a pretty tough deal. I don't care how good or bad the test is. If you can't read it, that's a problem. So, I mean, are you in favor of at least addressing this, or maybe increasing with accountability, or opening up the BSA itself to talk more about this?
I think the discussion needs to be had. Absolutely. We need to find out where this money is going. When we look at the schools, the way they're laid out now with 54 school districts in Alaska, you know, we only have 40 House districts in Alaska. And, you know, Fairbanks has one school district. Where are these other 53 school districts? The North Pole, or not North Pole, the North Slope School District encompasses a huge portion of our state. They're only one school district. Some of these, you know, there's some islands here or there, and there's two school districts to one island. And,
Right.
you know, and you wonder, they all have to have an administrator and a superintendent and IT help. And they just, it seems to me that there could be some efficiency done in this system, and that's what I want to see. I want to see, and I asked all the educators who come in, I say, where's your plan to get parents into the classroom? Because everyone is talking about, you know, the number of students per teacher. I would like to see someone organize parents coming into the classroom, because I know if my mom showed up into the classroom and was there, you know, on Wednesdays, I know I would be paying attention a lot more, and maybe not acting up as much as
Yeah.
you know, hey, I wasn't the greatest student. I was kind of the class clown. But I know if we had actually a program to get, because some parents can and have the time to be able to come into the classroom and would volunteer to help. I
Right.
asked everyone, what's your program to have get parents involved in, because we know when parents are involved with their students, the students excel at a much higher rate.
Well, good. At least we know kind of where you're going on that. Let's talk for a minute about defined benefits, which has been the other push, because they're saying this is the only way to attract and retain, you know, teachers and firefighters and police. And now it's pretty much every other governmental worker out there. But we know that nationwide, there's a shortage of employees. There's a shortage of, and especially teachers and some of these other things, there's a nationwide shortage. And there's no proof that any of this would fix that. On top of that, the price tag. We still owe $7 billion from our previous defined benefits programs, down from $12 billion, and we're doing a good job there. We've cut it almost in half. But that was 17 years ago that we did, 16 years ago that we did that. How in the heck are we going to be, and how can they look us in the eye in a straight face and tell us, well, this will be revenue neutral, or this will save us money, or everything else? I mean, defined benefits is it's the sucking black hole of a financial future.
Absolutely. I mean, we just had a presentation yesterday about the retirement system, and it's astounding, the graph from 2024 and the end of this current, defined benefit, the tier ones, the tier twos, the end of it ends somewhere in 2050, 2060, somewhere like that, where the curve finally comes back down. But
Right.
when we're looking at 2032, we're going to be up for about 2.1 billion for payouts. There's going to be, we're under under the water on the fund, and we continue to give money to it. We've already given $8 billion above and beyond what the state has agreed over the past 20 years. $8 billion. And it just, how you can want to bring that system back and somehow call it cost neutral is just beyond me.
Right. Take a temperature of the room. What's your feeling in the House right now, anyway, from your side of the aisle? What's your feeling on the overall defined benefits programs as they've been proposed right now? Is there an interest in it? Does it have a chance of passing, or are people actually looking at the fiscal notes and going, "Whoa"?
That's a tough question. And within our caucus, I think, we're all willing to look and to see and look at what's happening and how we can change it or make it better. But no one wants to, in my opinion, I certainly don't want to put us back into a tier one system where we're going to have this graph looking at us, staring us in the face for the next 50 or 60 years, and how it's just going to bankrupt our state. So, within our group here in the House, everyone I think is willing to look and to make a good level-headed decision. But it's going to be a tough hill to climb, I think, to get any kind of defined benefits that even resembles, previous tier one, tier two type.
Frank Tomaszewski's been our guest. Frank's got to go. He's got a meeting here in a few minutes, so we appreciate you coming on board. Thank you for being part of it today. Hold the line for just a second. Folks, we're out of time. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Frank, sorry about that, but that is just way too quick a segment. I wanted to get into some deeper stuff. We'll have to have you back on the program here in the near future and discuss this a little more, especially as we get further on in the session and we get a little more closure on what these folks are thinking on these two processes or these two policies further on down the road. So we'd love to have you come on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, Michael. And sorry, I've been it's swamped. We're swamped down here, and you can see I'm rolling it early in the morning and till late at night, and it's
right.
But it's good. I'm having a good time, actually.
Good. Well, we hope that you are able to hold the line on some of these things, and we'll get your discussions back. I mean, I'm glad to see that you saw one of the major things in the school discussions is that 54 separate school districts, a little consolidation could go a long way. A little consolidation on that, even if you just cut the number of school districts in half, you could consolidate the overheads from all those, pooling all their health care into a single pool instead of 54 separate different entities. And then, of course, the discussion on actual scholastic achievement. All of those things would be good things to discuss. And I look forward to talking to you about it again here in the future.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in and joining us, Frank. I appreciate you part of it. All right. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the what's going on with the BSA, but we didn't even get a chance to talk about the governor's new proposed amendments. I don't know if you've seen this. The governor's new proposed monies that he wants to spend, another $117 million that he wants to spend. And so we will talk about that here in just a moment as well. And we'll get some takes on that. And we'll see what goes on. Representative Kevin McCabe said everyone should watch the defined benefits discussion in the House Finance from yesterday. Kevin, if you want to call in and give us some highlights on that, you can hit me on my cell phone. That's fine. I'd love to hear exactly, because I didn't have a chance to watch it yesterday. I mean, Frank is right. It's been busy. I get right off the show and I go right to work. I got done with work last night at 6:00 last night. So I didn't have a chance to sit down and watch the discussion in House Finance. If you want to call in and talk about that and give us some highlights, I'd love to hear from you on that. Feel free to give us a ring and we'll have a discussion on it if you'd like, or I can send you a link for the StreamYard for the video interview if you want to do that, Kevin. Because I would love to hear some of the highlights from that discussion. That would be fantastic. Just let me know if you want to do that, and if so, which way. I'll shoot you a link in a hot second. In fact, I'll just shoot you the link in case you want to do it. How about that? Since I'm right and I got that, you feel free to join me there, or you can just do it by a telephone. Okay, got that done. All right. Let's see. Districts don't care about the laws associated with the formula funding. I mean, as I get more and more into the actual formula and I look at how it's broken down and I look at how it's factored, I am blown away. Let me just give you a little tease here. This is one of the lines that just stood out for me. At the end of all these adjustment factors, this is talking about the BSA, the number of students used for the BSA formula can vary greatly from the actual number of students being educated in the district. And of course, that's how they're funded, right? For instance, in Anchorage, the 40,944 average daily student count, 41,000 daily students, they count as if there were 73,000 students after all the adjustments to the formula. So they're getting funded to the tune of 73,000 students when they only actually have 41,000 students in the district. What? I mean, the way that they figure this thing out, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, Kevin's not going to make it. He says he's got to jump in the shower, but he will clip it out and send me the highlight reel from the Gavel to Gavel, which I appreciate. Thank you. And appreciate you doing that. All right, good morning. Hey, my dad just joined in. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Everyone say hi to my dad in the chat room. He's late this morning. You slept in. Scolding. I'm not scolding at all. He can sleep in as much as he wants. All right. We are coming up against it. We're 20 seconds out or so, getting ready to join in the Michael Duke Show. Please feel free to like and share, like and follow, do all that, do the YouTube things. Let's get back to it, shall we? Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
That's right. Not your daddy talk radio. It is the Michael Duke Show. Coming up at the top of the hour, Cathy Tilton is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking with her about all the things that are going with the with what's going on. I suppose I should open up the phone lines, I guess, in this last segment. I got a couple things that I want to talk about, but if anybody out there has something else that they want to talk about, I know in the past, Melody has wanted to update us on the situation going on in the Matsu. The bus strike still going on. We're in week 3 now of the bus strike still going on. I saw a comment earlier yesterday from somebody. It was on Facebook, I think, that said that the classrooms. It's something like a third of the students are not showing up because parents are having a hard time getting their kids to the classes. That's an issue. I mean, they're now talking about actually distributing gas cards to parents in lieu of because they can't get buses over there, and so now they're doing that in lieu of that. They're going to give gas cards to parents and pay for it out of the transportation fund. I mean, my biggest question is right now on that whole deal, just as a sidebar, is why have they not started legal action against Durham on this whole thing? I mean, Durham is in violation of their contract. It doesn't matter that it's about an argument between employees and employers or a strike or whatever. That has nothing to do with it. You are not providing the service that you were contracted for. Why are we not having this discussion? This is a $200 million contract. Why are we not having this discussion? Right? That's my question. So if whatever you want to call it about, the phone lines are now open by our friends at Satellite West, 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. If you want to call in, thank you to Satellite West for hitting us with this. Okay, here's what I wanted to hit on real quickly. Governor has announced proposed amendments to his state budget that he released back in December, which was already upside down, right? That budget already had a $300 million deficit baked into it. Now he has announced another $117 million in undesignated general fund budget amendments to his budget, which would bring the whopping total of the deficit to, approaching $500 million, $433.5 million in deficits. Now, the things that he is proposing to increase or pay for, it seems like they're pretty needed things. Increasing monies for the public defender agency, putting more people in or getting more money into the Division of Public Assistance so they can handle all the backlog of that stuff and get ready for the Medicaid compliance thing. The ferry funding systems, a match in the ferry funding systems, because that's the only way you're going to get. They have $285 million in federal discretionary grants that they can get a hold of for the Marine Highway system. I mean, these seems like viable and valid expenses that really probably need to be taken care of, but no discussion on how we're going to offset the $400 million deficit. Now, he said in the beginning, where's the quote that I was looking for? I got 15 different windows open here. The quote that he basically said was, this can be handled by the monies that are in the CBR, the SBR, and then when we get carbon online, that's when everything will take, when we get the carbon stuff going, we believe that the new revenue stream can address a number of issues going forward. So right now, that's the plan. We believe that what we've presented can be covered right now with existing revenues and the constitutional budget reserve. What? It doesn't. $500 million, nearly $433 million, but nearly $500 million upside down. And that's just what the governor proposed. You know that the legislature is going to take their own spin on it. And if they get in any of the things that they really want to talk about, i.e. defined benefits, BSA increase, and all this kind of stuff, it won't be $500 million. It'll be $1 billion deficit. Or it's just going to all come out of the PFD. One of the two. One of the two. So the governor is increasing the Public Defender's Agency by about $8 million, just over $8 million. The Division of Public Assistance is going to get $9 million in the operating budget, and they're going to get another $54 million included in the capital budget. I think the $54 million has to do with migrating into a new computer system because I think they're still using a system that runs on Cobalt or something. And so they got $54 million in the capital budget for the public defenders. And then again, the Department of Public Transportation and Public Facilities, they're getting a ferry funding match as well. That's going to be pretty significant so that they can get those federal matching funds. They also put $7.5 million for the Department of Public Safety for replacing a patrol vessel. They gave $10 million to the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute and the Alaska Travel Industry Association, which are $5 million each to each one of those organizations. Those are groups that are basically what do they call that? They're I hate it when I lose my words. They're basically industry groups. They're industry groups that are begging the government for money to help market the industries, whether it's the travel industry or whether it's the seafood industry and marketing. They're getting $10 million in government handouts to advertise to people outside to come to Alaska or to buy Alaska seafood, which I'm not against those things happening. I am against looking to government money to make it happen. I mean, if the travel industry wants to come together and tax themselves and pool their money together to go advertise it, great. Stop going to the government for $5 million. $24 million for Medicaid rates, $5 million for the state assumption of permitting primacy, $2.8 million for more VPSOs. It's just all kinds of things in this. You have to go take a look at it. There's links. There's stories up in ADN, Must Read, KTOO. Everybody's got a story about it this morning. So, all right, Cathy Tilton's going to be our guest up next. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. All right. Just trying to get all my ducks in a row. Yep. All the ducks in a row. Donna says, ugh, I have so many comments about where the funding is going. I mean, shouldn't we? I mean, I'm all for highlighting what's going on in Alaska. But what really burned my cookies there was the fact that you've got $10 million going towards the Alaska Travel Industry and Association and the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, both of which are trade entities made up of local Alaskan businesses, right? So the Alaska Travel Industry Association is made up of tour operators and businesses and mom and pops and the big ones, the princesses and all. And yet they keep coming to the state with their handouts saying, give us money to market the state so that more people show up. And of course, the argument there is, well, it's a cheap investment because if you do that, then we'll bring millions of dollars into the state with new tourism and everything. Well, if that's the case, you would benefit too. Why don't you gather the money from your own organization? You know, I don't see radio stations going to the legislature and saying, give us a few $1 million to market ourselves to the local community so that they will come and buy our radio advertising. I mean, that one burns me up. $10 million. $10 million. $8 million for wildfire suppression. $7.5 million for the Alaska Energy Authority. $250,000 to assign a dedicated state trooper to investigate in custody inmate deaths, and more. So it's shocking, I tell you, shocking, I tell you. All right. Didn't the fishermen out of the Copper River fishery? Wait a second. Didn't the fishermen out of the Copper River fishery vote to tax themselves to form a marketing association? For my seat in the House, it was wildly successful. I don't know. I mean, they all belong. This again, the Travel Agency Association or Travel Associate, the ATIA, which I'll have to go back to the other page to look at it again. I mean, great group of folks. Don't get me wrong, but why are we taking governmental money for what is essentially an industry association, a trade group of private businesses? Well, the argument, of course, is that it affects all of Alaska. When we bring the tourists up, everybody's going to win. So, of course, but again, you are the prime beneficiaries as the tourism businesses, as the travel industry businesses. You're the prime. Why would we ask for governmental money to benefit your bottom line? I would say that you should probably pony up. How many members are in the organization? You got 100, you got 1,000. Everybody gave $1,000. Guess what? You got money for days to get it done. I mean, why are you asking the government? Well, because the government is in the sugar they're asking for because of an hour. It's an industry trade group. $5 million. And the seafood marketing industry, $5 million. People want to buy Alaska seafood already. And by the way, you guys are making the profits on it, so maybe you should throw money in the kitty and advertise yourself instead of asking the government $10 million for those two trade industries. Like I said, substitute those trade industries with your own business, with the own industry that you work in, and just say, what would it be like for Michael Dukes to walk in front of the legislature and say, well, I work in radio, and so I really think that you should give us $5 million so that we can advertise to all the businesses and the communities and everything else to tell them to buy our radio. How would that fly? I mean, it would stimulate the economy, right? How would that fly? All right, let's go over here. Cathy Tilton is in the green room, and we are just about ready to jump to with hour 2 coming up here dead ahead. Good morning, Cathy. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I am doing great. How about yourself?
I'm just, me, I'm just griping. I'm just complaining over here about everything that's going on. The governor's new proposed budget and the new amendments and everything. And I'm a little irritated. I'll be honest with you. But it's good to talk with you, and I appreciate you coming back. I know you're a busy lady, but it's good to have you on, and I think the people are ready for some straight dope on what's going on in the legislature. So we're hoping that you're going to smack us with some truth here this morning. So, all right. So you sound good. You look good. We're ready to go. We're about 60 seconds out. So if you'll hold the line, I'll be right back to you. Okay. So
Sounds
don't
great.
get a glass of water or a cup of coffee or whatever else you need to get things going. Folks, please like and share, like and follow, subscribe and ring the bell, do all the things, the YouTube things and the Facebook things and everything else. We'd love to see it. Let's get back to it. Here we go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. House Majority Speaker Cathy Tilton up next right here.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, live across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream, links to our podcast, links to the social media sites, and more, plus live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Thursday edition of the Michael Dukes Show. We're jumping right into it. We've got our second guest for the day. It's been a few weeks since we've talked to her, and we've been looking forward to chatting to get the full rundown of everything that's happening down in Juneau. Joining us this morning on the program is Speaker of the House, Cathy Tilton, representative here from South Central, and we're asking her, well, she's joined us already. We're going to bring her in to talk this morning and get the straight dope on everything that's going on. Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Michael. I'm doing great. How are you?
You know, it's, again, another beautiful day in paradise. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Well, I lied. Maybe I'd like to be in Hawaii for just a little bit, but, it's fine. I'm about done with winter at this point of my day. Cathy, I appreciate you coming on. We got a lot to talk about here, and I want to kind of dive into it. When we spoke last time, you had the organization of the House had basically just occurred. You had some assignments that were going out. I don't think there'd even been an announcement on the assignments of committees. Maybe it had just happened.
Yeah.
But now we've seen some work happen. We've seen some things be done. And so there's really three major things that I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you today about, of course, the big elephants of the room, the discussion around the BSA, the discussion around defined benefits. I also want to talk about the long-term fiscal plan that the majority is going to be talking about and pushing. And then any other hot button things that you want to talk about, feel free to bring those into the conversation as well. But let's get started here in discussing what we've been talking about for a good part of the morning, which is the base student allocation and how crazy the discussion around that seems to be getting. Because what we have is we have a problem on multiple fronts. First and foremost, there's no guarantee that if we increase the base student allocation, that a substantive amount of that money is actually going to make it directly into the classroom to increase education. There's no accountability. And anytime you talk about putting some kind of accountability component into it, they immediately start screaming at you about hating the children. And of course, why do you want to cut education, et cetera? But this is a huge price tag. If the $1,250 one gets through, that's 1% of the adjusted gross income of every Alaskan. That's a huge number with no accountability or anything else. Let's talk a little bit here about the BSA. What are your thoughts, and what is the majority working on right now?
Absolutely. For whatever reason, people seem to think that if you just continue to put more money towards something, that's going to make it better. But I think we've seen through the years that just increasing things or putting more money at it doesn't make it better. We haven't seen an increase in our student outcomes. As a matter of fact, we might have seen decreases in student outcomes. Every group that comes in, and mind you, we have a lot of groups coming here in Juneau right now. It's great that the Capitol is open. It would be great. It'd be even better if the Capitol was in a place on the road system where everyday folks could come in and just express their thoughts and wishes. But I talk to a lot of even the kids that are coming in, and they seem to think that, for some reason, they seem to think that money kind of grows on trees. And right now, money doesn't grow on trees, I have to say. And if we don't have some accountability measures attached to any kind of dollars that go towards the BSA, we'll just be doing the same thing that we've always done. So what does that look like? The more I'm talking with people, the more I'm kind of thinking about that not just accountability measures, but transparency measures in budgeting. Representative Rauscher has a bill that would have an online checkbook for school districts so that people could see where are those dollars going to. I think that, everybody here wants, and, we all want our kids to have a great education, but that's the bottom line. We want the money to get down to the kids so that the kids are getting a great education. So I'm excited about Representative Rauscher's bill, and hopefully that'll be something that we'll be hearing. There's a second component to that I can't really give the details to, but I know that the administration, the governor has education package that he's going to be putting forward sometime in the next week or so that I think might change the conversation about what we do with education.
Well, I mean, anything that we can do to attain some accountability and some actual, however you want to look at it. I mean, education at this point is kind of an industry in Alaska that produces a product of well-rounded, educated people. And if you're looking at it from that perspective as an industry, it's a failing industry because, again, we're 49th, 50th, 48th on all the various scholastic achievement scores. And yet the answer seems to be, just throw more money at it. It'll fix the problem. Nobody's acknowledging, and this is not strictly an Alaskan issue, but Alaska, it's probably the worst culprit because we are on the highest end of the spend scale and the lowest end of the achievement scale. But until we acknowledge that there's something fundamentally broken in the education system itself and try to address that, which I know the Read by 9 program and some of those other things have done, we're spinning our wheels here. We are absolutely spinning our wheels.
Absolutely. You're right, Michael. And the other thing is, we talk about labor and workforce shortages. And so what are we doing to help our young people be ready to go into the workforce? Not everybody's going to go to a college. And at this point, I hear a lot of the kids coming in and saying they're going to go outside to another state to go to school. But not everybody's going to go, not everybody has that in mind. So what are we providing as far as, work ready labor force? One of the disappointing things for myself and being a private business owner was when I wanted to hire somebody out of high school. It was a whole class that was graduating and they were excited that they had 3 people that were workforce ready, meaning that they could balance a checkbook. I know I think it's a little better now, that they're teaching more life skills types of things and work ready types of classes. But, part of that problem with our workforce shortage has to do with, what's happening early on.
Well, right. And the trades, the ignoring of the trades and the vocational ed and things like that. Like you said, not everybody is going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer that requires higher education in a university. A lot of them, I mean, we need welders, we need, mariners, we need AvTech and people to keep the airplanes flying, and we need people to flip burgers or ditch diggers or whatever it is. All those things make a society go forward. And until we acknowledge that there are people who are suited for certain things, that they have interest in certain things, we're throwing money down a rat hole here. The other problem with the base student allocation formula is that it is heavily weighed for those monies to go to build, bolster, and bloat administrative and overhead and things like that. And that money is not making it down into the class. Senator Hughes had a great speech the other day on the floor talking about this is not going to do anything. And even if you guaranteed that the money was going to reach into the classroom, it may only have a minor effect on it. And you're talking about throwing millions of dollars at the situation.
Sure. I brought up an article that I had seen early on about the relationship of the increase of the student to the increase of the teachers to the increase of the administration, where the student increase from 2019 to now was under 10%. The increase in the teachers was about, a little bit more, but the increase in administration was like a 78% increase.
Right.
So Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the argument should be that if we're going to talk about the BSA, we're going to talk about increasing the BSA, we also need to talk about opening up the formula and looking at the components of it. Maybe putting back in the amendment and the waiver that said there was a requirement that 70% of the monies actually make it into the classroom. I mean, my favorite chart, and by favorite, I mean the most revealing chart, is the overall. It was a 20 or 25-year chart on student enrollment in the state of Alaska. And you could see that it was on this declining slope. And on the opposite side was the administrative, and it was this inverse V that was like, it was huge, and that's part of the problem, is that we have 5 administrative overhead, administrative personnel, support personnel for every 4 teachers. That's insane. That's not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable at all. And that's why, I can't speak for every single member in our caucus, but I can speak for the majority of the members of the caucus that there has to be some accountability, some transparency, and not just dollars thrown at the problem, and some kind of reform. Like I say, I'm kind of excited that next week, I believe we'll be seeing an education package that will come from the administration that will, I think, change the conversation. So I'm looking forward to that.
The conversation needs to be changed because, again, what we're seeing in the local media and the newspapers is kind of this insinuation that we have been underfunding education for years because the BSA hasn't going up, basically insinuating that the BSA is the only funding that they get. Yet we know by talking to people like Sarah Montalbano from the Alaska Policy Forum and more that education costs in the last 19 years have gone up 35%. We've increased education spending by 35%. Where's the money going? And again, we go right back to that whole administrative curve and everything else. You just said you spoke for the majority of folks in the majority. Overall tenor and tone in the room as far as where the BSA is going. We're going to see the governor's plan come out. How do you think that changes the conversation, if at all? If you can give us some details on that before we move on.
Yeah, I can't really give you the details on what the governor's plan is looking like, but I will say that I think that it will flip the script a little bit, in that the conversation won't be that it has to be the BSA. There's outside of the box ideas and options of how we can help education at this point in time. And like you just said, Michael, if you're going to look at the BSA, we need to look at the formula itself, and we need to really dive into that. So we need to look at ideas that are outside of that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I hope that we see a little bit of a change in the dialogue, a little bit of change in the narrative of what we're seeing on that.
Sure, Michael. The House majority is getting criticized because we haven't come out with some dollar amount. The media and everybody wants us to say, oh, we want the BSA to be this amount, but we want to look for, outside of the box ideas that can help with education, but where we know that education is helping the student, that the student is getting the education that we want them to get, and that we are getting results-based education.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the kind of thing. And yeah, you're not being treated very well by the media. I had to laugh at the headline from a couple days ago. It says, after a month in the legislative session, the GOP-dominated House majority is still deciding priorities. Yeah. Of course, nobody mentioned that last session, a month in, they still didn't have an organization going on, so I think you guys are at least ahead of the power curve here on this. We're up against the break. Speaker Cathy Tilton is our guest. We're going to talk here in just a moment about defined benefits. And that is the elephant in the room that could literally bankrupt the state if we're not careful. So we're going to talk with her about that. Plus, the long-term fiscal plan. What is it? Where are we going? What's happening with it? Cathy Tilton, our guest. We return with more in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now with Speaker Cathy Tilton. I imagine you've been pretty busy. I imagine it's been a busy time here trying to figure out all these policy things and everything else. But can you give us how are things been going overall? I mean, how is the majority caucus feeling? How are the Bush members folding in? Give us a little bit of we're in the break, so we're kind of diverging for a minute just to not repeat ourselves. Give us a little backstory on how things are going in the caucus overall.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We have a great team. We had a great base team before, and we have a great team that has expanded. And I don't look at any divisiveness in the team. I mean, obviously, people are going to have different policy ideas, but that's no different than before. We aren't all aligned on everything all the time, but a team that wants to work together. I mean, we, good governance is what we want to be known for. I said when I took the gavel that we wanted to, have respect for ourselves, respect for each other, but that way bringing back respect to the institution. And so I'm really pleased. The rural caucus is blending in very well. Some of the stands that we may have felt from previous years, are not really there, and we seem to be doing really great. And for all of the members are just really hard at work right now. I mean, subcommittees sucks up all the air out of the room. So
it does happen, it seems like.
Yeah.
And of course, we've got some outliers here. We spoke last week with David Eastman about
Sure.
his debacle and everything else. Any comment on what happened there? I know that he was bent out of shape, but again, didn't want to necessarily work with the thing. He now claims that he's the only conservative Republican caucus left in the state. What's your take on that whole thing?
Well, I think Representative Easton knows this as well as I do, because he was a part of the caucus in the last session. He knows that everything that we do is a caucus decision. There wasn't any one individual that made any decision, and working with other folks is, and being an outlier is fine. Everybody doesn't have to agree on everything. That's not what we want. We want people that have ideas, and we can have good debate and good discussion. But you also have to be able to work with people where you're not taking, giving a feeling of maybe a lack of a trusting relationship.
Yeah, the adversarial relationship inside your own caucus is definitely not something that is. It doesn't make progress happen. It doesn't make moving the ball happen, and I think that's been part of the problem for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The governor proposed basically a nearly full statutory PFD. Has the caucus taken a position yet on the PFD, or are we in a wait and see attitude, or what's the feel right now from the caucus on trying to protect a statutory lawful PFD?
Well, with our last caucus, this caucus has some diverse thoughts on the dividend itself, but I can say that I haven't changed as far as, following the law. And I think the goal would be to try to keep the PFD as intact as possible. That being said, there is a whole lot of dollars out there that everybody's asking for. And that's one question I ask them when the people come in looking for money for this and money for that and money for this. And like I said earlier, money doesn't grow on trees yet. If the carbon package passes, maybe it will someday, but It doesn't grow on trees yet. So how do you pay for things?
You're exactly.
We're already in a deficit.
Yeah, you want all this stuff. How are you going to pay for it? Are you saying that we should cut monies that will affect the lowest 80% income earners in the state the most, or should we present new revenues? Or it just doesn't pop up from nowhere. So, Good combination, good conversation. All right, here we go. We're 10 seconds out. Cathy Tilton is our guest. We're about to jump into it on defined benefits, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, like and share. Here we go. All right, we're continuing now with Cathy Tilton, who is the Speaker of the Alaska House, leading the majority there on the House side of things. We just finished talking up about the BSA and picked up a few things during the commercial break, but we really want to talk about the defined benefits issue because, again, that is the issue that I think that holds the most financial and fiscal peril for the state. I mean, Cathy, when we stopped the defined benefits program back in 2006, at the time we were at nearly a $13 billion unfunded liability. We've punched another $8 billion into it since then, but according to the maths and actuarials and everything else, because of the cost and expansion, we're only down to $7 billion in unfunded liability from the previous program. And now there's this discussion about, well, we need to add more people to it. Some say just the first responders or first responders and teachers, but we know that would lead to a lawsuit of unequal treatment amongst employees. And another proposal would say we put all state employees plus all municipal and borough and city employees on it, adding 40,000 people to a new defined benefits program. But we're assured that it will be revenue neutral or that it will actually save us money or whatever it is. This is the fiscal sucking black hole that could, I mean, this is a problem. Give us your take on the defined benefits and what the majority is thinking right now.
Sure. When it comes to the defined benefits, it was a little bit unfortunate that we had, things were kind of hurried up in the beginning and in our organization. And so I feel like the bill itself did not get the vetting that it should have got in its first committee of referral, which was Community and Regional Affairs. The vetting that through no fault of the committee chairman, this was a new committee chair, and he was getting a lot of pressure from some other folks, and we had just organized. But what we really should have heard there would have been the effect on communities and how much it would have cost communities across the state. We got a little bit of that, but we didn't get a lot of that. There's some organizations that look at pension and plans across the state that have been doing some analysis and giving some feedback on that. And it sounds like there wouldn't just be a long-term risk in the plan, risk to the state in the plan that's before us, but it might be an immediate risk to the plan because of a 16-year look back. And so that's really concerning. I mean, the reason they went from defined benefits to defined contribution in 141 was because of the indebtedness that the state was incurring was unsustainable. So again, I'm sure everybody wants everybody to have all the best in life, but the question is, defined benefits is not the only answer to our problems with our workforce shortage. As I'm talking to more and more people here, there's a lot of things included in that, like what we talked about earlier with just education opportunities in career types of things. There's housing issues. There's just, again, those outside of the box, and the answer, it's kind of like with the BSA, the answer isn't just that we have to do this one thing. And as myself, I'm not accepting that the only answer to all of our problems here in Alaska is a defined benefits plan.
Right. Well, and again, part of the problem is the one thing we're not talking about, haven't talked about up until this point, is again, the fiscal responsibility for the local communities. I mean, if the 40,000 employees are put on there from boroughs and cities and municipalities and things like that, they're already currently still repaying millions of dollars into the previous plan, they would now be on the hook for another portion of this. It could be a huge financial hit to communities big and small, with no end in sight as far as the top end of what those things could cost. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars that could get away. I remember when I served on the Borough Assembly in Fairbanks, they were still dealing with this was in 2013, 2014. They were still dealing with repaying their portion of the original defined benefits plan. And we're talking about millions of dollars a year. And just to add to that, makes no sense, especially in the fiscal crisis that we're in now.
Sure. I mean, I totally have great respect for our first responders. Absolutely. My dad was a firefighter and, retired firefighter for AFD. I have great respect for all of the first responders. But again, the other day in my office, there was some other folks who came in who, maybe they should be considered first responders as well. And those are the guys that get out and are plowing the roads after it snows. I mean, they're the reason we have accidents or don't have accidents in some cases. So when you talk about the kind of the camel's nose under the tent, you're absolutely right, because when you start to think about it, and this is the reason they didn't do a carve out on 141 back when I was going to say back in the day, but that sounds like such an old statement. But back in the day was because they knew that if you were going to move, have one group carved out, then you were going to have another group, and it was going to end up being everybody.
Yeah.
And I know I'm reminding people when we put the $3 billion in to buy it down so that we could afford what we were doing or to help with some of it. And are there other options? That's the question. Are we willing to hear what's out there? Yes, but let's not just be stuck and we have to go down this one road of this one plan. There's other options with defined contribution. There's there could be yearly bonus type situations. There could be I think that the Reason Foundation has done some investigation and said that our rates across the nation, our rates on our plan here in Alaska might be a little bit low. So maybe that's something to consider. But I just think that, throwing this and saying this DB plan, HB 22 is the only saving grace. I think that we need to open our minds here and expand and look a little further, because what good is it going to do if we put our state into an indebtedness that we can't afford to do?
Right. We can't ever get out of. Right.
Exactly.
And then we're endangering the corpus of the permanent fund on top of that as well. As well. And I think you made another valid point, which is that there are many reasons why people decide to leave government employment or leave a job in particular. Benefits may be a part of it, but benefits are more amorphous, especially retirement benefits. They're more amorphous in the long term. People are more concerned about work environment, recognition. There's a lot of other factors in there that make people leave their jobs more than anything else. And so I don't think this would be the golden ticket that they're looking for or believing in. And in fact, it would create, I think, some more problems as well. Donna Ardwin in the chat room says defined benefits are not good for employees who don't want to work for the government forever because it's not portable. That's another part of the problem.
That's right. And, and so that brings us to a sustainable fiscal plan, Michael. Is all of these things that we're looking at, which are, we're hearing, let's put some money towards this. Let's put money towards this. Let's put money towards this. Well, don't we think that if we put together a sustainable fiscal plan where we're not budgeting just to try to balance this year's budget, that maybe some of those things work themselves out as we go down the road? But, we don't have a sustainable fiscal plan. What we do here right now is that we are here in Juneau. We have a budget before us. We have to figure out how are we going to balance that budget, and we're focusing on that 1 year budgeting. And that's, it takes all the air out of the room because we need to get a balanced budget by the time we leave session here, and that's that constitutional duty that we have. So why the subcommittees are busy at work right now and taking a lot of the air out of the room. But we have nothing that puts us on a path of sustainability so that when we that everything isn't a crisis. It feels like right now everything is a crisis, and the only way to fix that crisis is to put more money towards it, but it's more money that we don't have. So
Right.
if we work towards a sustainable fiscal plan, and the Ways and Means Committee is going to be looking at options and ideas, and I'm really excited about what they'll be doing. I won't take the wind out of Representative Carpenter is kind of guiding that, so I won't take away from his agenda. But I can say, they started out by looking at the fiscal policy work group, 2 members from every caucus. And of course, that was last session, but Democrat, Republican, Independent, from the majority, from the minority, that came together and actually had some plans and some ideas that they all could agree on. Did everybody like everything in it? No, but it was at least something where all members of the legislature got together and came up with something. And so they're starting with a baseline of that fiscal policy working group. And then really proud of Representative Carpenter for, moving that committee to a nighttime committee, 6 to 8 p.m. to involve the public, because we want to hear the voices. And that's, when I think at the beginning I said, one thing that, we're a non-binding caucus, but we are bound to good governance if we're going to be bound to anything. So we want to, do those things that will involve the public more in the conversation.
Well, yeah, and again, talking and addressing the fiscal policy working group, that was like one of the most diverse groups that had ever been thrown together. People from both extremes of the left and the right, fiscal conservative, fiscal progressive, pro PFD, anti PFD. I mean, it was like this whole thing. And yet at the end, they came together and had a unanimous vote to say this was the plan. And we can't just take it a piece at a time. It has to be holistic. We have to address all of them at once so that they all can all be worked together into a puzzle that fixes the problem. And you're right. People are tired of the year-to-year fiscal cry. Oh, we've got so much money. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to spend it. The next year, oh my God, we're upside down $500 million. What do we do?
Yeah.
We're racing from one side of the boat back and forth until we come up with a long-term fiscal plan in the 10-year type range. This is something I've been complaining about for years. There has been no long-term vision in the legislature. It's always till the next year or maybe just to the next election cycle, and nobody ever gets beyond that. If we don't do this, this is going to be our lives forever, this fiscal boat rocking back and forth from one side to the other. We've got to get this thing settled.
Yep, I totally agree. And all last session, and that was the request of the caucus. And this session, I'm excited that we will see some things put forward, and to open conversation, and to have that discussion with Alaskans, to actually see the options that were put forward, and if those options aren't acceptable, then what option is. We didn't have the opportunity last session to actually review the policies that were put forward, but we're going to do that this session. Again, I don't want to move too far ahead of Representative Carpenter, but I can say that I'm excited about where this committee is going to go.
Let's see. We're coming up on the break. Are you sticking with us to the top of the hour, or do you have to go? Are you?
I unfortunately have to go, if that's okay. I have another.
Okay. I got 3 minutes then, and we'll finish up here in 3 minutes, and we'll be good to go. You mentioned a non-binding caucus. Again, that was part of our conversation with Representative Eastman earlier. He said, no, absolutely, it's a binding caucus. Everybody's bound. Doesn't matter what they say. It's still a binding caucus, which, again, I'm trying to wrap my brain around that idea that everybody's saying it's not except one person. So let's just set the record straight. This is a non-binding caucus. You are not going to mandate that each member must vote for the budget. If they have a problem with it, they can vote against it, and the discussions can still continue, yes or no.
Yeah, the discussions can still continue. We do know that we are here. We are the majority. It is our constitutional duty to put forward a budget. That being said, everybody needs to be involved in the process. Everybody needs to make their voices heard. And
I think that's pretty clear that that's what it's been since the beginning, and I'm glad we're able to get some definitive borders on that and say that's what it is. What should people be watching? What should people be watching for right now in the next coming week or so, Cathy? As we get into this, what should we be watching for?
Sure. Right now, I think people will be watching the subcommittee processes. And as I say, we have some great team who are, and the finance team is doing a great job. And then one of the big issues that's going to be coming up next week is going to be a resolution on Willow pushing back against the federal government and asking for support of the record of decision on the Willow project. That's a resource development project where, the federal government wants we want progress in America, but not in Alaska, apparently. So that's going to be a big issue for watching next week. I think you'll also be on the lines of education. As I said, there should be some education package coming from the administration that will be really worth taking a look at. We're going to start hearing in Judiciary is going to be teaming up with Tribal Affairs, and we're going to start hearing some of the bills regarding public safety as far as trafficking and those kinds of things that didn't make it out of even a committee last session because I'm guessing because they were the governor's bills. And we're going to be seeing some rollout of some ideas in Ways and Means. So, there's things are moving along here.
All right, Cathy Tilton, our guest. We got to take a break and come back. Cathy's got to go. So, Cathy, thank you for coming on board. I asked you to hold on for just 1 second here before we go to break. So we're going to come back here in just a second. But Cathy's going to go. We will return. You're home for Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio.
What is that?
Common Sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
All right, Cathy Tilton is in with us for here. I just two quick questions. First and foremost, somebody asked earlier, a couple of people have asked about, was the legislature briefed at all about the balloon incident of things traveling across the state? Were you guys brought into the conversation at any point before or after?
The leadership was briefed, only very, very vaguely briefed that General Sachs, let us know that they were some of the things that were going on, but basically that they didn't feel like it was that they would keep us informed, I guess.
It wasn't that big an issue. They'd keep you in the loop, but that was it, kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, that came down. The second thing is again, on the Eastman thing, he lost a staffer. That's public record. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And that's not unusual for people who are outside the caucus, or was it something that was promised to him? His assertion was that he was promised he'd be able to keep his staff, but it didn't happen. And I just want to get some clarification on that so that we can, nip it in the bud for folks here in the chat room. Sure. What was your position on his staffing situation and with what happened with the loss of his staffer?
Sure. It's not unusual for somebody who is outside of a caucus to have a lower range of points to be able to staff their office. And that is the case with Representative Eastman. He has one committee and he's sitting outside of caucus. The committee that he has is a really awesome committee, and he's got a smart mind, and we're excited about, what he adds to that committee. But it is not unusual in any case for that to happen. In previous years, when Representative Eastman was left the minority caucus, he was afforded the ability to keep his staff because those were kind of the wishes of the minority at that point, because it was really towards the end of session.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And so was he promised that he was gonna keep his staff? Was that one of the, because that was the assertion, is that he was promised he was gonna keep his stash, and his the word was broken, your word was broken, that
My
was
word
going.
was well, I will tell you, Representative Eastman did ask me if I was going to go after his staff if he made a vote, and I said that I'm not going to go after people's staff, but that would be generalized. I wouldn't go after or attack anybody's staff. That's not. But in the way that, like I said, back in the way that the House is organized, it's based on a point system, and someone sitting outside of caucus has the opportunity to have so many points, which affords them the one staff.
So saying that you won't go after somebody specifically is what you said, and it was read by him as, "Oh, I'm all protected," and that was not necessarily the case, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's it. I kind of wanted to get that cleared up because I know people have questions about it.
Sure.
I'm satisfied with that answer. I think that makes sense. Sometimes people hear what they want to hear, and that's how
Absolutely.
it goes. Cathy Tilton, thank you so much for coming on board this morning. I appreciate you being part of it. As always, we look forward to talking to you maybe in another couple of weeks or so, 3 weeks maybe, to
Sounds
see where
perfect.
things are at, and we'll see where you come from on that. Thank you for coming on board.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, Cathy Tilton, our guest here on the program this morning for the Michael Duke Show. Okay, let's get things rolling here onto the other side. There we go. Hope I answered some of your questions there in the chat room. I know some of you are not going to be satisfied no matter what, but that's just how it is. Let's see. Let me go back here. They are the Senate different leadership. Okay. Hopefully that answered the question. I mean, it's interesting that they brief the legislature on the thing as it happening, basically saying, "Well, we'll keep you informed, but it's not really a big deal." Okay. Okay. And I guess I should have clarified whether that was the first or the second balloon incident. I should have clarified on that. In that, was it the first time when it traveled all the way across the state and then got shot down on the East Coast, or was it the second balloon that they shot down outside of Dead Horse? But either way, it sounds like that they're barely keeping the legislature in the loop on that. Not that the legislature has any control over it, but yeah, I guess it is nice that they at least keep them in the loop on that. All right. So, can we do cooking tips? Someone said my chicken was pink and too spicy. I actually like chicken that's a little pink. I'll be honest with you. My wife hates it because I don't like chicken that's dry. I like it to be just slightly pink. And spicy is A-okay with me. Spicy chicken, better chicken. All right. Here we go. One final segment. What are we going to talk about? No idea. We'll open up the phone lines. How about that? The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. Okay. Here we go. Last segment. Let's no, I have no idea where that voice came from. It's difficult sometimes. All the voices in my head, and I'm never sure which one to quite listen to, and sometimes the weirdest ones just pop out of nowhere because, well, why not? Right? Why not? I'm opening up the phone lines because I was expecting Cathy Tilton to stick with us throughout the whole hour, but she had to go, so that's okay. And so I'm going to open format. Any topics, fair game, whatever you want to chat about. We would love to hear it. If you want to take umbrage with something that was said today by either one of our guests or myself, or you want to talk about something completely different, feel free to do so. The number to call, 907-433-3150, 714-333-3150. Again, this hour of the program being powered by your friends at Satellite West. You'll find them at satellitewest.com. Wherever it is that you want to be, from Hoosley to Harding Lake, from, I don't know, from Old Bay to New Bay. I'm sure there's a New Bay around there. So I know there's an Old Bay. Somewhere there's a New Bay, I'm sure, in the state of Alaska. From Nome to Nanilchik. You can get connected with your friends at Satellite West. They'll keep you in contact. Phone calls, emails, text messages, surfing the internet. They do it all. SatelliteWest.com. Okay. Oh my gosh, the phones just went bananas. But let's go on over there real quick. I'm putting everybody on hold, and we're going to jump over to the phones for the first. Say, let's start over here. Morning, who's this? Where are you calling from?
Michael, this is Carlene in Kodiak, from Kodiak to Klawock.
From Klawock,
about the
right.
workforce shortage. Why don't we take that $5 million and steal professionals away from other states and advertise for these professionals that get a job? People do not get the job now, so they're not working and they're highly professional, they're experienced, and just advertise, get a state job, then move to Alaska. And I think we could get the best people. And right now, nurses do not have to take the NCLEX exam, and attorneys do not have to take the bar exam, and medical doctors don't have to take the medical school exam. I think we could steal highly skilled and professional and experienced people away. We could get, because right now we have mediocre people that they're willing to hire with no college degree.
Right.
It's just a thought.
Well, you're talking the $5 million that they're giving to the Alaska Travel Industry Association or to the Seafood Marketing Institute. That was $5 million each. You're right. I mean, as I've worked in the past with recruitment for employees, and one of the best sources of good employees is employees who are already working in the field for somebody else. So if you're looking for government workers, you're looking for a specialty or something like that, you're right. Spend $5 million of that hiring from outside the state and go out there and retain some of the best that are working somewhere else. It's not a bad idea, Carlene. It's definitely not a bad idea.
And even dentists would come here because they're losing they don't even have retirement funds. You could get really professionals. Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it, Carlene. Thank you for your call this morning. All right, let's. It's not a bad idea. I mean, I'd rather see it go there than to private industry at this point as some kind of surplus. And if that's one way that they could help recruit or pull in new employees for what they're, although I got to ask a question, we have a 17% vacancy rate in the state right now, and the state has not imploded. The wheels have not ground to a halt. So you've got a ton of people, ton of empty vacant positions that are being funded, 3,800. Vacant positions that are being funded. What if we just what if we just hired 1,000 people and cut the other 2,800 positions totally? I mean, we're still making it, right? All right, let's go over to the phones. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Mike in Fairbanks.
Hello, Mike. What's on your mind, sir?
Mike, I'd like you to do some research and keep track of the Mary Fulp issue, the principal in Palmer that got taken to the psych ward.
Right.
And keep an eye on that issue and see if lawsuits are filed, see if any criminal charges have been filed and things like that. The issue was ripe for a lot of things, and I'd sure like guys like you and girls like Suzanne Downing to dig into that and let us know in anything related to that happens.
Well, I do know that there will be a lawsuit filed because that was implied in the articles that were written about the thing, that she'd already retained legal counsel and they were exploring their options, which is legalese for look out for the lawsuit that's coming. And I'm sure it's going to happen, but I'm keeping my ears to the ground on it, and we will continue to listen, Mike. And if we get any more information, we'll make sure that we pass it out. Okay.
Hey, thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Appreciate you calling in and being part of it. That leaves one line on hold right now. That leaves a whole bunch of lines open if you'd like to call in. Let's go over here, see what this caller says. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
G-Man calling from Fairbanks.
Morning, G-Man. What's on?
I just have a couple quick comments. Yesterday, I didn't hear Art say anything about the votes for ranked choice voting must be run through a voting tabulator. He didn't say that. And then I was surprised he didn't say anything about voting tabulator fraud. I was really surprised. I'm going to have to call those guys and find out about that. I think Mike Lindell's involved in about 1,800 lawsuits right now across the United States on election fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening right here in the state of Alaska. Good news source, good information if you want to get educated on it, is frankspeech.com. And then the other comment I had was the school buses in Fairbanks North Pole don't carry any kids. There's no kids on the bus, not many. The buses that roll in could carry the kids in a van. The parents or family members pick the kids up and drop them off. So if we want to, get a little state budget cut, let's get rid of the buses and go to the vans and don't give the parents the money to bring their kids to school. That's my two comments, and thank you very much for your show.
Well, appreciate you calling in and joining us this morning. Thank you. I'll be honest with you. I'm not an adherent to the idea that there is rampant voter fraud in the state or in the country. I think that there is some for sure. But I would like to see, I definitely would like to see some reform in the election system as far as election security and some of those other things. But I am not an adherent to the belief that it is rampant across the country, as many folks have asserted. So, but I appreciate your position on that. As far as the buses go, look, there's buses. There are buses that are full, some that aren't. And yeah, maybe they should be looking at that in a little different way. Maybe they should be looking at having a half and half thing. But I know that some of those buses are full, especially those in the core city areas. But there's always room for improvement. I would not agree more that there's always room for improvement on finding ways to make those things more efficient. I guess at least you could say in Fairbanks, at least they have buses at this point. All right, folks, we're out of time for today. Tomorrow is Firearms Friday. Thanks for coming in. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. All right. Look at that here real quick. Biggest lawsuit to be filed against Buffalo school buses are built like tanks for a reason. Now we're talking about the safety of buses versus tanks. No tips on the chicken? Well, eat your own pink chicken and cook it a little more for everybody else, I guess is what I'd say. But I do it. I'm like, you're going to get it however you like it or not. That's all it is. Let's go over. Go back over here. Anything else that I've seen? Anything? No, most of the same. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on board, and I appreciate you guys being part of it. We'll see you tomorrow with Firearms Friday. No guess yet. Maybe we'll get one. Maybe we won't. If not, it'll just be you and me, which will be fun anyway. Enjoy yourselves. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. We'll see you tomorrow, my friends.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Welcome to the party, pal.